Hello guys, welcome back to another episode of On Cook and Wine. Today I'm very excited because we have the Carl Joshua Ncube, the best comedian in Zimbabwe, an author. He's laughing. The biggest comedian star in Zimbabwe. He's also an author, a chef. Welcome to On Cook and Wine, Carl Joshua Ncube.
Yes, thank you.
Welcome.
And welcome to you as well. Is that what they say? It's like, and same to you.
I don't know, but yeah, same to you.
And same to you.
Me too. Jeez, we were having this conversation earlier where I was telling you about people trolling you on Twitter.
Right.
Because of, the last podcast that I had, I said something that people don't like.
Yeah.
And people are telling me, stop talking about Mjolo. You did law, talk about law. Talk about economics. And I'm like, I don't want to talk about that. And I remember watching I think you were saying something about people were telling you what type of comedy to do.
Right.
And I was just going through this today. I'm like, no, but guys, this is how I feel. Like, as a creative person, this is what I want to do. Yeah. How do you deal with that? Because Zimbabweans like telling you what to do.
Yeah, you know what? I think the first thing is to understand, like, who your audiences are at each point, right? There are people who come to your shows. Mm-hmm. So the people who are your customers, people who are your clients, those are people who are important. Mm-hmm. Then there's people who follow you on social media. They're also important, but only in that context. Now, the problem is people feel like they know you, right? Mm. So when you're talking about Mjolo, they feel like a jilted lover, or they feel like someone who wanted to try something. And yet all you're trying to do is educate us. In fact, you're giving us the law in Mjolo, right? you're trying to show us some of the pitfalls that people might have. And I think it's I used to look at it as a bad thing, but I think it's a good thing as well, because people feel ownership of what you're doing. Mm. So sometimes it feels like it's a bad place, but it's actually a good place they're coming from, because they're kind of telling you how important you are to their day-to-day decision-making, their struggles. So what you're saying is kind of triggering a lot of stuff that they're going through, right? Mm-hmm. Like recently you were talking about, like, I think you were talking about, like, there's no best friend or no bestie.
Oh yeah, that's the one I'm being trolled for.
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm. And yet it's because you exposed a lot of us on our bestie and our intentions. You just brought out some of those issues. So yeah, the issue is to look at what are the motivations, and the only reason why they're on the profile, talking on your profile, is because you're a safe space. You're a safe space to talk about it. They wouldn't go to another space. People don't come to my space because I will troll you back. Like, I'll literally go into your inbox. So I'm not the guy.
It's interesting. So okay. I know you're old.
Train.
I mean, I remember because what most of you don't know is that I have been a creative for a long time. I started in theater with Raised Back in the day. Yeah, I used to do theater.
How old are you? Sorry, wow.
No,
I don't know.
I'm old enough.
Okay.
Old enough. But yeah, that's where I started. And back in the day, arts, creativity, being a creative, my drama. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what I was told. That's my drama, And I also saw the struggle in it. Would travel to Haifa, waiting for per diems. That whole thing of being an artist. So when you started, that's back in the day. What was going on in your head to say, okay, this is the route I'm taking. I'm going to be a comedian. It wasn't popular then, What was going on in your head?
So I'm lucky in the sense that, lucky and unlucky. Mm-hmm. So my father was a stand-up comedian.
Okay.
And so I wanted to get into the business of comedy in terms of managing it, the monetization part. I saw a lot of revenue potential. So I was running an advertising agency. So I had no intentions of being the guy in front of the camera. Okay. And so I was trying to show my dad, and my dad was just too afraid to do it. And then eventually I said, let me do one show. And I did one show. It just blew up in terms of popularity. And then my dad opened for one of the shows as well. Unfortunately, my dad would then die. But I had this business model. And so I started looking at it from an industry perspective, because like you're saying, I used to be the person who runs NAMA. I'm the person who used to do the big festivals. Mm-hmm. So I understood acutely that artists were struggling, but I knew the mistakes they were making. Is that everybody else was making money in the equation. The corporate was making money, the promoter was making money, but the artist wasn't making money. And it was because the artist didn't understand how to set themselves up like a supermarket. For example, an artist doesn't have an opening closing time. You can call them anytime. They get 50% down right? You are not a credit facility. So why are you giving people terms when you don't know their bank statements, you don't have proof of residence, you don't have proof of earnings? So why are you giving them a credit facility to work with you? And in fact, people are not buying your talent, they're buying time. So look at all the other professions. In law, in all of those professions, you're selling time. You're not selling the skill. So those are the things that I already understood. So it was easier for me to make that transition into comedy because I initially now tried to prove if my theory was going to work for my dad, which was, could I take my dad around the world? And so half my jokes were my dad's, half were mine. And I took it around the world and I showed people that you could monetize it. So for me, that was the experiment.
Okay, so when you say your dad was a stand-up comedian, where was he performing?
So my dad was a teacher at Founders. So he would, in Bulawayo, so he would do weddings, he would do funerals, he would do birthday parties, you know, and mostly for free. So he didn't really monetize it. And for me, that was always a struggle to see my dad do something that he had a passion for, but not really get rewarded for it. But people loved him for it. You know, my dad had lots of good friends. He had a big network of people that he knew. But I felt like he should have made money from it. But in his last days, when I became a comedian, what would happen is that corporates were now booking my dad when they couldn't get me. And so they would start booking my dad in that place. So before he died, my dad kind of got his, like, a good share of
he was
some
an
money.
influencer, he was a creative.
Exactly. Yeah, he looked like me, old already, but he was making quite a bit of money.
You said you got into it as a business, right? What was the response when you were going to these corporate places, business places? What was the first? Okay, obviously they were not used to it, right?
Yeah.
They were used to negotiating with artists. Like I said, I've been through that journey where drama. You know that, like I've been there. You know, now you're coming in and saying, "Hey, this is what I want, and I want like payment upfront."
Yeah.
How are they responding to that?
Yeah. So this is one of the areas where I was really lucky. Trevor Noah had just blown up.
Okay.
Trevor Noah was being managed at the time by a Zimbabwean, Takunda Bima. So the model was very clear that it was already there. There was some popularity there, and there was a good starting point. So in the beginning, no, I didn't get any corporate gigs. No one would even pay $100 for me to do a gig. So what we did is we did the classic thing where we knew Tuku became big because people in South Africa loved it. So we moved to South Africa, and we convinced Mazoe to pay for our rent in South Africa because we're going to call our place the Mazoe Mansion, the juice, right?
Okay.
And I would go on stage with my Mazoe t-shirt. And so that's how I would identify myself as a comic. So we performed at Parker's Comedy Club. And before we knew it, a lot of corporates were now bringing us in. But that was the first hurdle. Second hurdle was the politics. So at the time, everything was construed as a joke against Robert Mugabe. It didn't matter what you talked about. If you talked about potholes, it was Robert Mugabe. If you talked about the sun shining, someone would say it was political. And so everything was political in Zimbabwe. So I couldn't do a show. The police would always shut down any show that I was doing. But fortunately, like Tarone Guitar created a very safe space for me as a comedian under her acoustic nights. And so there was this model starting to grow of acoustic nights of very sort of high-end Zimbabweans who were coming to these places, Zimbabwe German society, to come and watch music and comedy. So everything was kind of bubbling. Everything I think it was like a golden period because even hip hop, like 10 Diamond and all of those guys were growing at the same time. So I feel like Zimbabwe was expressing itself creatively because there was so much, I think there was so much political tension that people wanted an escape. And so to make fun of a celebrity was a great escape. So we could touch on some of our beloved, we won't mention names.
Please. So, as a successful comedian, Carl Joshua Ncube.
Yes.
What's the most amount of money you've made?
In one sitting?
In one sitting.
In one sitting, wow. Can I say this? No. Okay, so, wait, okay. So, wait, maybe... I would say 10,000.
Yeah.
10,000 US was probably, and that was maybe for a 15, 20 minute set abroad.
20 minutes?
Yeah, 20 minutes of comedy. But funny enough, I'm looking at my manager now. Our shows made a lot more money than that. So, so for example, for example, we did HICC, HICC, and 1,600 people at $10, for example, at the time, or some of the shows where I could command like $20 for a show. But we made a lot of good money in the beginning because I was really just the only guy around, and the gigs were just, world was my oyster at the time before the competition started coming in.
Oh yeah,
skits. Skits started coming in. You could get a lot for.
So there's this comedian, I forgot his name. He's feeding into my DMs all the time. He's like, you should be a stand-up comedian. I'm like,
because you're very funny.
And then I told my friend was like, no, you can't. People, you embarrass yourself. Oh. When I was saying, it's hard. I'm like, oh, okay. Wow, confidence booster there. Yeah. But, so what does it take to be a comedian? Like, what do you have to do to stand up in front of people and
I'll
make them laugh?
Yeah, I'll make you hate it because firstly, the one big pressure that's there is to be called a comedian. So for people to expect you to make them laugh is the hardest hurdle. So what you're experiencing is the natural part where you can make people laugh, but there isn't the pressure. And the reason why there isn't pressure is because once you become a stand-up comedian, you're now going by what we call a laugh ratio. So for example, it's now looking at your jokes purposefully. So I don't know if you've watched comedy, but you'll say a comedian is performing the jokes over and over again. That's because a joke is written like a song. So like a song has rhymes, comedy has punchlines within each minute. The minimum for you to start getting bookings will be like 4 laughs a minute. Then you can go 6 laughs a minute, 8 laughs a minute, right? Okay. So you have to have a structure where the joke has to have, like, it's got a rhythm. It's like set up, punchline, set up, punchline, set up, punchline, set up, punchline. So it's got that kind of rhythm. So it becomes more technical. So it only becomes technical the more you start performing it. So you do 5 minutes, then you are good at that 5 minutes. Then you start building more sets on that 5 minutes. You start looking at the minimum unit of a joke, which is called a bit. It's the smallest unit of a joke, right? So you've got a bit, a number of bits together become a chunk, and then a number of chunks together becomes a set. So those kind of things when you're now writing, so that's the difference of why people don't understand why their favorite skit comedians cannot become stand-up comedians, is the laugh ratio. So in a skit, maybe there's one joke in a minute, or sometimes 2 minutes, it's the same joke, like it's a labored joke. And most of the laughing that's happening is you creating the punchline in your own head, right? It's not that the comedian is doing it. Like the comedian is in a combi and you're like, oh, no, you're making up the joke in your head. But when you're on stage, you're deliberately making every single joke and you know exactly where the jokes are. So if one joke falls flat, remember, you're still in a minute, so you still have 4 other opportunities to make people laugh. So it becomes more technical in that respect.
Okay.
I know it's annoying.
So
but
is it okay to say that then you have to be a good writer?
Yes, you then have to start writing. You literally have to start writing. There are a lot of guys who do physical comedy, but even then they have to kind of write the steps. There's a real process where if you watch a comic, you will see them in the comedy clubs do this joke over and over again. It becomes like muscle memory. So there's some parts that become a bit of improv, but majority of it is actually going to be the same joke.
Okay, so besides the technical stuff that you've just mentioned, what else do I need to be a comedian?
Yeah, so you have to tell your truth, tell your story. So your story is one that has to, like your funniest stuff is centered around Mjolo, right? And why it's that? Because there's 2 aspects to it. You're talking about things that you've learned in life, things that your friends have said, things that you've said over wine. So sometimes that source material is going to be important because it comes naturally to you. A lot of comics get in there trying to be funny. It's not really about being funny. It's about telling your story. And how you tell your story is that it has to connect with people. So we say don't try to be the hero in the story. Don't try to say like, yeah, I was the big guy, right? If you're the guy in the joke, I'm the guy with the erectile dysfunction. I'm the guy who, I'm the guy who can't catch a break from the wife. I'm the guy who you have to not be the hero in the story.
Okay. Yeah. So guys, do we have any female comedians? Like stand-up comedians? Like I haven't seen in a popular female.
Yeah, they start, but the reason why they don't continue is because female comedians make a lot more money than male comedians.
Really?
Yeah. And the biggest challenge is that they make it very early and then they stop writing. So what happens is that they don't go through the struggle. So once you're a female comic, everyone is rushing for you. And then what happens is that you stop writing. So the struggle of the male comic is that he's going to the comedy clubs, is performing for about 10 years before he even catches a break. Female comic, first night, everyone is like, you've made it. And that's usually the thing that makes a lot of comics fall. So if you look at someone like Long John, for example, you see him now on America's Got Talent. But remember, Long John was the comic who couldn't even write English, was not even performing his own jokes, and a lot of people sort of nurtured him, and he worked through the ranks, went to South Africa before he even got that far. But for female comics, they don't quite get that story. First gig, everyone is booking them for corporate, and then the material runs out, they run out of steam, and yeah.
So there's a space for me.
Yes, there's a space. And you know, to be honest, all my friends who are female comics, I mean, they're earning a lot of big money. You know, I mean, you're talking about like the Ankan singers of this world, Tumi Morake, Celeste Ntuli, Nina Hasty. I mean, these women are amazing comics, but they put in the graft in the comedy clubs. And that's what separates them from everyone else. Some females end up just doing skits, and then they run away from the stage because they realize that, oh, okay, I'm still making good money, so there's no need to then start writing, you know, more content.
Okay, so guys, if everything else fails, you never know.
Yes,
you never know.
Yes.
So, okay, how do you manage to? Because I grew up when I was in Bulawayo back in the day. We knew about you, Carl Joshua Ncube, and you're still being talked about. How do you manage to stay relevant in a country like Zimbabwe?
You know, I think one of the things that's beautiful was social media. Social media stops me from having to be pressured to be out in public. So like right now, what's currently happening with my own content as a comedian, firstly, I don't put all my content online. I only put the promotional stuff only for the promoters abroad. But I end up becoming more relevant because I space out my content in other areas of my life. So I do a lot of, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So like your basic needs, I think it's like safety, and then there's safety, security, and then you've got your, what is it, social needs, and then ego, and then self-actualization. I have content that suits each and every one of those areas. So my food content hits the base, and then I've got the social media stuff for business. Then I've got my comedy, which sits in the social space. Then in the ego space, I've got all of my achievements that come, and then most of my spiritual stuff goes in the self-actualization. So I've got lots of content in each of those areas. So I don't exhaust, you know, I'm seasonal, right? So I start the beginning of the year, I do my business stuff. Okay. Second part of the year, I do my design stuff. Third part of the year, I do a lot of my strategic projects. Then last part of the year, I do my entertainment. So as a lot of comics are like, I have to perform the whole year so people know who I am. I'm not that guy.
You're good.
Yeah.
Have you ever got to a point where you're like, you know what, I'm done. I'm not doing comedy anymore.
Yeah. So a lot of people don't know that I stopped doing comedy before COVID.
Really?
Yeah. So I actually retired. You know, so once, yeah, so what people are seeing is a lot of my content sort of resurfacing. So whenever a new comic comes up or a good comic comes up, then people want to make the comparison. How does he fare against Carl? So I start seeing, people are watching my stuff again. So I'm lucky because my content was relevant because it's telling stories about my life. And so people are still watching this stuff. But I stopped doing comedy ages ago. Well, firstly, before COVID, really, it was about taking my dad's legacy somewhere. Okay. And once I had gone around the world like twice with comedy, I didn't feel like I had much else to give. And there were other areas of business. Comedy was there initially to open doors for other areas of business that I wanted to do. Rural tourism and a lot of that stuff. And also, you know, my wife and I enjoy the food part of my business more than the comedy. So traveling for food is a great part of our lives. We wanted to travel, we wanted to eat, and we wanted to laugh. And so those three things, you know, are kind of covered, and we don't need people now.
You're good.
Yeah.
Wow. But have you ever, because I sometimes suffer from I don't know whether I should say suffer, but imposter syndrome, where
Right.
I feel like I know I'm good. I write a lot. That's another thing.
Yeah.
I have a lot of stories I've written, but I'm just scared to put it out because I'm like, is it good enough? You know, am I good enough? I'm doing this, but is it good enough? Have you ever gone through something like that where you doubted yourself?
Yeah, so firstly, as an artist, I don't know if it's like a standard or it happens with me. I suffer from depression, so that's a big issue in my life, and and I'm not talking about feeling sad. I mean like proper chronic depression, right? And so one of the things is that when you perform internationally, like me, you're going into a new territory. You go to Myanmar, for example. When you arrive at the airport, you know you don't belong. And so that's also one of the things that keeps you grounded, is that you don't get egotistical and say, oh, I'm the biggest thing since whatever in my own country. You still feel like you don't belong. And so the craft demands that of you. It demands that you don't belong, because even the people in that comedy club don't feel like they belong. And that's the point of connection with your audience, right? Is the bad parts of the low self-esteem, that kind of thing. So the way that I look at it is that you are special to the world, and you have lots of evidence. The figures will show online, the people giving you the adulation and stuff. But I think somehow what keeps you grounded is that exact thing of feeling like, this is that important, that you care about it that much that you don't feel you're good enough to be able to give it to people. That's why it's a gift.
Okay.
Methinks.
Now we go to my favorite topic, Mjolo.
Mjolo.
we cannot have a podcast and not talk
in.
about it.
Yes,
so I think one of my fears when it comes to marriage is divorce.
Yes.
You come from, your parents got divorced.
Yes.
You were married before and got divorced.
Yes.
And then at some point you announced
you're
planning to divorce this beautiful woman, and the whole was like, what?
Yes.
I think last year, I think one of the newspapers was like, Zimbabwe is facing a divorce pandemic.
Yeah.
Why do you think there are a lot of divorces now?
I think
having experienced all this.
Yeah, I think the problems are now very real, and the support systems don't exist. So, when you were a couple ages ago, what I remember is that couples sort of got together. The same couples saw each other at church. They had a club. The women had a club. The men hung out together. They drank at the local bar. In Harare alone, everybody drinks 20 kilometers from where they live. So, and their kids go to school 10 kilometers from where they live. Their church is 15 kilometers from where they live. Everything is separated. So that sense of community doesn't exist. So if I look in my case, the reasons why I got divorced the first time and the reasons why I wanted to get divorced from my wife the second time are very different. So I got divorced the first time because, I got married too young, right? And I didn't understand this thing. I didn't even see myself as a man. I was, one of those people that I was like, every fight that I had with my first wife was like, oh, I'm going to kill myself. And I was very suicidal, and I was very immature in that particular instance. With my wife now, when I wanted to get a divorce was because I'm going through a lot of health problems, and being a person that felt like I was the man in the house, and seeing myself become dependent and a burden, and like having to wake up in the morning and my wife having to bath me and all of those things. So when we get into a fight, for example, my thought process was, I started to regress. I remember I was even taking something like 28 antibiotics a day because of a diabetic wound I had in my leg, and I was facing an amputation. And so I didn't think I was going to be much of a husband left. So I wasn't divorcing my wife because I didn't love her, but I didn't want her to be around. Should that day come when I didn't want to live, I didn't want my wife to be around to wake up to a dead husband, for example. And so I wanted her as far away from me as possible. I wanted her to hate me if possible. Obviously, I've got a wife and an Naro. My wife's name is Netsai. So my wife was like, no, I'm not. Let's talk about this, whatever it is. And we discovered that this onset of depression and the meds I was taking and all of that stuff, and I went through a whole period of counseling. A lot of friends sort of stepped in. I have a friend of mine I went to school with who's a psychologist in Canada, George, who took me through what I was going through at the time and sort of helping me. And so I realize a lot of men are going through this. Guys just don't know. And especially we're talking about Njolo particularly, right? Is that men are struggling in how to connect with women. And it's manifesting in very different ways. Like, this issue of consent and this issue of approach and issue of, guys just don't know what to do. And it depresses them that they can't be themselves. They feel like they can't be themselves, which is untrue. Women want you to be genuine, but this Mjolo era has said if you don't roll up right, if you don't have the right things, if you don't say the right things, but talk to any married guy, right? We've been through this nonsense. We know that, for example, my wife had me in the friend zone for 8 years. And to get out of the friend zone, I had to cook a slow roast honey chicken with garlic bread,
Carl,
a
how were you
garden
in the
salad.
friend zone for 8 years? What were you failing to do? What were you not saying right?
No.
8 years.
Yes, I was failing to get a divorce. So I was still married at the time. So my wife was like, nah.
Wait, so you were married?
I was married. I was going through a divorce. She didn't believe me. So during my divorce, my divorce took such a long time, right? But what was even more complicated was I was going through a divorce and I was about to marry someone else. And then I decided I wanted to be with my best friend.
Wait.
Yes. Yeah, so I was in three levels.
There was a threesome.
There was 3 levels going on at the same time. There was a wife, a fiance, and a best friend.
Wow.
Yeah. So I knew I wanted her. So after
I've got so many questions. I've got so many things.
So only after everything was out of the way did she agree to
a smart woman, of course,
exactly.
Because who would want to be in their nest?
Which explains the friend zone. So even there was even a girlfriend. There was a permanent girlfriend after fiance. Yes.
So there was.
I even wrote about in my book. But this is the best thing I've ever experienced in my life.
You were getting divorced.
Yes.
You had a fiance.
Yeah. So I broke up with the fiance. Then I now have a girlfriend.
And your wife is there. Like
I'm briefing her on all these stages.
She knows everything.
She knows everything. I've been telling her, and I've been telling her I love her, and I've been telling her and she's not responding. I even showed her all the messages. She's like, but bro, you've been telling me you love me since all this time. I'm like, yeah, I've been trying to get with you. I said, but you see now my statement that people are crucifying me for.
Exactly.
I was the bestie.
An example.
Bestie ndaitoda. Zvisingatomboita. I hung around. Ndakatomuperekedza kutomuendesa. When she went to the US to work on cruise ship, right? Ndakatomuperekedza kuti anotenga zvese kuti aende ku-US. Bestie, I was there. Ndakandiri T.
And you guys are crucifying me. Yeah. So how do you know? Okay, so obviously she's been your friend for such a long time.
Wow, yeah.
How do you know? How do you say she's the one? Like, what did she do? Because I also want a wedding in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
I'm struggling to get a relationship.
Right, okay.
But what did she do? What is it about her that made you say, this is it for me?
Yeah. So maybe I'll put it like this. There's bestie. Bestie, you don't want to risk when you are not ready. You keep it there. Will you get into a relationship? You're testing the waters. It could end up in marriage, it's okay. But bestie is saved for if this marriage fails. If it fails, if anything goes wrong, pana 1, 2, 3, up a girlfriend, maybe you are cheating. This one I don't cheat on. You
can't mess with the
marriage of convenience, baby mama drama. But bestie is the one you want to retire. Okay. Pane, there's a pension. There's your pension. She's my pension.
Bestie is the pension.
She's my pension. I invest everything, all my experience. What. She's the one I want to grow old with. She's the one that I look at and I'm like, she's not there just for the looks. She's not there just for. She's there for like, we are going the full.
This is it.
Vamoyasava, you know, kuti it's high risk. You know it's high risk. You're like, I'm marrying you, Shako, but
I mean,
because
it might.
Tsano ndi friend yangu kanauti I like. Do you know what I mean? Like you get into these relationships or maybe she's the one who pushes you. How come you're not marrying me? That's not bestie. Bestie is the person who's
patient.
No, not she's patient. No, she will have her own people, but you'll be waiting for each other. You will know when the stars align, and only a few of us get to marry that bestie.
Oh man.
A few. Some of us, 80. Unfortunately, and people just, they get married at 80 to their bestie. Yeah, not a good look. In India, I made sure in our 30s, I remember we were already talking about marriage before I even proposed. We had already decided how we were getting married. Yeah.
Wow. So I love your relationship because I see it on social media. Like when we were having a conversation earlier, we don't see the other side, but what we see is beautiful. Right. I mean, I would want to be in a relationship where I travel with my person, work with my person. Yeah. And there's something that I heard you saying in another podcast. Yeah. You said you guys shower together. Every day. Guys, I love... There's a moment... Sorry, guys, I'm going to be gross a bit, but there's a moment... You want to just sit by the toilet before you take a shower. Yes. How does that work? Every day. How does that work?
I think for a guy, every day must start with some nudity, and you see the problem with you guys, nudity, and it's already unannounced. It's also we've been watching so much porn when we were growing up, but when you guys come into the house, visa top, like there's no ceremony to it, and it even kind of it's not quite. And so sometimes nudity at Mumbai, I see a performance element to it, but it's necessary. We have to. I know every time when I go out, I have to have some kind of nudity. I have to know that I've seen my wife naked, and also when we fight, it's hard to fight with a person who's naked. No, it's just hard. Because kanochikwesha munhu musana wakatsamwa hauzotsamwa paunozosvika pabackline pipe. It's just one of those things.
Every day I can't imagine. Every day. There are moments you just want to be alone in the bathroom.
Yes. No. There are two things. We bath together, then we have to make the bed together. So it doesn't matter. Those two things have to happen because it's a safeguard. Because you see, the problem is you guys are very good at. You guys can be angry at us, and we don't know how to get back into the conversation, right? So unodipam sana, and then you start wearing the double pajamas with the football socks, wakupfeka Warriors kits or whatever it is that you wear, to show that nothing is happening. But at least if I know, Kuti, I can touch your body. I have the permission to do so, right? Because I'm doing some kind of useful thing, like I'm washing your back or I'm putting lotion on your back. That act of service may save your marriage, especially in the very dark times.
So you're angry and you're busy saying
I look forward to it and I don't skip that opportunity. I'm trying and quick, you have to even when we're angry, you don't shout that, Papa. And we've learned from there that it kind of keeps you together because you won't talk to each other the whole day, but you'd have had some form of spiritual, physical contact, which is very, very important. It may not be the sex. And that's also another thing. That's why guys end up thinking the relationship is measured by the sex. So if you say no to sex today, I think it's because you don't love me. That's how guys quickly gravitate to that. And that's because they've lacked touch, just to feel, to touch, to look at a set of boobs, which is very important to the economy. I believe I know it's some level of success. No, because people end up being so perverted. Because I always say to myself, guys, why are you all over some of this stuff? Ma sex tape, mudakupina ma sex tape. Kasi zama muskuruwane rekumba. Tanka. Charity begins at home. If charity has got them, look at them before you go out. You might enjoy life a lot better. You don't think it's a BP. At least you go on one. You don't have to see both of them.
God, killing me.
Instead of two. Because maybe two is too much. You know what? That's one. Ungothi othi mbona apha andithi tozophetsa nas uzobona.
Okay. So anyway. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is Carl Joshua Ncube, the best comedian in Zimbabwe. So, okay, what advice would you give to couples that are probably at a place where you were once, where they want a divorce, and besides bathing together, doing the bed together, what else would you tell, Kuti, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, so I think, firstly, guys should not be afraid to hear their woman's dreams. Quite often women monetize because you want a lot of things. So I encourage guys to just sit down with your woman, ask her what she wants. Ask her everything. What does she want? What does she want financially? What does she want sexually? What does she want spiritually? Find out.
Okay.
Then you must demonstrate that you are paying attention by making sure that your actions show that you're working towards that. No woman is asking you to deliver that today. Like, for example, my wife says that she likes to travel, right? So when she notices me put her on my travel schedule to go to comedy shows, then she knows I'm listening to her dreams, right? Validate your woman by listening to you. Don't argue the dreams. Don't look at a woman and say, I don't know. Because you know what? My wife told me, my wife likes nice things, right? Nice things don't require money, right? So, for example, I've aligned my work to my wife's dreams, because my wife says she likes to travel. These are the countries she wants to go to.
Pleasant husbands,
right? So in any, I'll say, she'll say I want to go to Thailand. So I'll make an effort to do jokes that suits the Thai audience and get a booking for Thailand and get a promoter to pay for the booking for Thailand. But I'll work the local comedy scene to make sure I'm big enough to be able to do. But if you listen to your wife's dreams, then she likes these things, and then all you're doing is just going the same job. You're not trying to get a diploma.
50-50, no problem.
But the 50-50 comes from the fact that this is the second step. Once you are demonstrating, also ask your partner, what is she willing to do? Because you've put your dreams and her dreams on one table. So you have said, like I did an organogram for my wife, and I said, okay, so this is our plan, and this is a plan. Can I lead? So again, leadership is not assumed. So you don't go into a relationship and say, I'm in charge. No, one of you has to be a CEO. So you'll say, I'm applying for the role of CEO in our family. The wife is the chairman. I'm CEO. So I will say, I've thought about, in the next 5 years, we're going to be traveling. In the next 10 years, we're going to be doing this, right? And she'll see me work towards it. The problem with men is that you say, babes, I'll buy you a car. Then she won't see any action from you. Like every day there has to be an action. Like even if it's kind of a jar in the kitchen, where you say, babes, do we like $5 every day? Okay. And even though that $5 may not buy a car, she must see an effort. She must see an effort to say, at work, I'm thinking of getting a promotion. I'm doing this course. I'm doing this. Because remember, we need to travel. Remember that house. Allow those dreams. And that's the biggest challenge with couples, is unmanaged expectations. This is the biggest challenge, is to say, you say something, then he says, but no. Already, we have a problem because you don't feel validated. I could have just listened. And said, you know what? That's dope. Babes, can you do me a favor? Can you write this on the first page? This is my new diary for the year. Can you just write on your first page so that every day I look at your dreams first before I start anything else I do? That gesture alone will change how you see each other.
They don't make them like you, Carl. Like the men we're meeting, they're saying, what are you going to do for me?
I'm not going to, my wife is even surprised. What, Dad?
It's like, they want flowers from us. They want gifts. So that's, those are the type of men we're meeting. But hopefully, one day.
One day. But you know what? I think we're slowly changing the narrative for husbands. Like, for example, a lot of the guys that I meet up, I'm now older. I try to be older brother. Okay. I tried, when I'm talking to guys, we're not talking about ass and tits and, like, sorry, my language, but we're not talking about that. But we're talking about, how to get to ass and tits. Like, no, I'm saying, but we're talking about how to do it in a way
that is
right,
acceptable to women.
Yeah. So for example, there's nothing wrong with guys like, we'll meet up with guys. I know, like when I've got friends who come from abroad, I'll be like, guys, we're going to the strip club. The reason why we're going to the strip club is because the strip club is a managed area where, yes, you see nudity, but just like marriage is like porn. Like
Wait.
you see, no, like you see lots of nudity, but you don't necessarily participate all the time.
In marriage.
In marriage, it's not every time when I see my wife naked that I have to do something about it, right? So it's like porn. You see it, but you're not necessarily participating in what you're watching. So why I'm saying that is because when I take my friends as an experience to a strip club, we just go to a strip club, drop some dollars, drink, go back home, go to our wives. End of story. Our wives know we're at the strip club. Different to different situation.
So are you saying strip clubs are better than Mauri?
Yes, because it's managed. Once you make the commitment that you're going to take a stripper home, there's too many steps that are involved officially for that process to happen. But you can go and have clean, wholesome fun.
What has ever stopped men though? Because men.
No, I'm saying
men will fly you. No, fly to another country.
If we're accountable to each other, if we're accountable to each other, it's dope because we are going. It's not like boys. It's in a situation where they say, "This weekend is easy. Yana made." Do you understand? That's dangerous behavior. That's very dangerous behavior. But it's different if it's like, oh yeah, we all went out together, right? Or the guys went out and they went to a strip. I'm just giving you an example. But my wife and I, we hang out with couples where we don't like that kind of idea of splitting up anyway. We like hang out and then we don't like the situation where women are in the kitchen, guys are. No, everybody stands in the kitchen, grab some wine, guys chop up some stuff. We all go by the braai stand. We all sit. We play games, let's say for, whatever, 30 seconds, you name it. Good, wholesome fun as couples. Yeah. Dope. But we keep guys accountable. We talk about stuff. If we're going through stuff at home, we talk about it, Okay. I'm a pirita and Duano Shana. I know 2 hours.
Carl, you're not drinking your wine.
No, yeah, sorry, yeah. Because the raw pirita. No, I'm just I can mix it too, so.
Okay. Oh my God. Now the segment I want to go to is very serious.
Yes.
Okay. So you've talked about depression.
Yes.
I've had like days where I felt very low.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember the time I posted, and you even came into my DM. You're like, "Hey, you're going through depression." You sent me something to listen to, which was very helpful. At what point do you say, "Okay, I think there's a problem"?
Right. Yeah. I think when you're not managing it. So like you spotted it, but you don't have a solution for it. Okay. So depression is there, it doesn't go away, right? I talk about the whole idea of just getting out of bed, that maybe that should be your target. When you get out of bed, if you get out of bed, if you can successfully make your bed, that's like the only thing that you should strive for that day. If something is getting you down, just do the one task. Just get the one task done. Doesn't matter what it is, just get the one task done. But learn to write things down, right? So for me, I've got a list of 100 things. And some of those involve what I would like to do for my wife, things I want to do for myself. It's a list of 100 things. Then I split it into 3 lists. The first list is things that I can do. They don't require anybody, right? Because sometimes you can go on social media, someone will say, I want to start this business. Zimbabwe. Hey, government, whatever. Yeah, so you want the things that you can do that have nothing to do with anyone else. You can get out of bed. You can take a walk. You can be a nice person. You can call someone. Those are the kind of things that you put into your you list. Then there's a money list. List of things that require money. You must have prices for all those things. Then there's a list of things that are not in your control. Okay. Will you be depressed tomorrow? Does God exist? Is the government going to come through for me? Are there going to be elections? Those kind of things, they're not in your control. That's what we call the God list. What it teaches you is self-discipline, So when you get depressed, you instinctively know the things that you can do yourself. So decluttering, all of those things. Then there's the money list. When you receive money, financial discipline is to know when I've got $5, what's on my list that's $5 or requires a payment of $5 towards it. Then the last list is the God list. The things that when you go on social media, you're like, that's not my portion. That doesn't apply to me. Let me stay out of that person's business. It doesn't affect me. The political discussions, all of that toxicity that you see online, you say that's not me. It's the God list. You just say to God, it's spiritual discipline. I'm not going to accept. Do you get what I'm saying? So once you know that, depression falls into that you list. For as long as you have a you list, you have something to do while you're depressed. So you can write a note, you can write a journal, you can write your feelings. Just get through that day. Don't even worry about the other days. Just get through that day. You learn to manage. So I'm literally depressed while I'm working. I'm crying. I look in the mirror, but I'm like, I'm going back to my you list, which is I'm going to write a long post about nothing. And then usually at the end of the year, I compile those nothing posts together and they become a book. Now all of a sudden that thing is now making money for me. So that's been my coping mechanism. But you have to be very deliberate. Once you're not managing it, then it becomes a problem. You can't eradicate it, but you must learn to work with it. It's now like it's a cousin. I look at it like I'm menstruating, for example, and I'll say, you know what? Once a month, I know I'm going to be hit for 6 or whatever. Which reminds me, I do menstruate anyway. It's weird. No, I react to my wife. I literally go sick at the same time.
Wow, you guys are really...
No, it's terrible. You see, I knew you were going to say it like it's a good thing. It's not a good thing. I hate it.
I think
hate
it's a
the
good
cramps.
thing.
I feel sorry
oh my
for
God,
women. I'm like,
what cramps?
Yes, I've got I get cramps.
Carl, no.
I get back pain.
You don't know.
I get back
no.
pain. No, I don't get cramps like you guys.
Okay.
I get...
You also just...
I just get sympathetic and I hate it. I hate it. I'm like, how do women even cope with this? If I knew this was happening to me every month, at some point we're having a conversation with God. We're like, this has got to stop.
100% agree.
Yeah, I'm not doing this. So, yeah, I don't know how you guys do it.
Okay, I think for the last part, I just want to ask you, before I even get there.
Yeah.
What do you think about people that are doing skits and the space and influencing and today's like how can we, because obviously people think comedy fun, like how can we then say no, this is skits, this is influencing, this is content creation, this is how can we then differentiate that as a nation? So
I always say to especially corporates, right, they're always talking about the numbers. The numbers, right? And I'm like, well, listen, you can put a naked person in Bari and they'll get likes. Does it mean we should, right? And there's a certain level of morality that I feel like a lot of influencers are like, they're missing the point, right? There's entertainment, but when you now start getting into this space of influencing people's thought process or behavior, you kind of have a responsibility. So, you know, I don't have a problem if you want to twerk, right? But I have a problem if you think it's okay for your child to be involved in certain spaces. There are certain areas of morality that I'm like, oh, it's your body, it's your time, you're an adult. Adult things remain with adults. But when you're now entering a space where it's kind of impressionable, your kids are now involved, or you know, or the idea of marriage is now involved, there are certain structures and institutions that I think people who are making content must uphold. So, for example, I think we're missing the opportunity in the idea of wanting skits and wanting likes, that we're now entering very dangerous spaces. We're now, you know, we're doing lives about rape. We're doing lives about GBV. We're doing lives about, you know, things that should not be live, right? We're utilizing the poor to make ourselves famous, you know? Going to people and saying, all of a sudden, everyone is a GoFundMe. Do you know what I mean? So I really think there's a huge amount of morality that's been lost. And so the craft also gets destroyed in there. So skits are a good thing, right? But they have to be funny. You know, they can't. They like. I mean, like largely they are not funny. I remember saying to my wife that comedy will just never have good quality again. Like we've gone down this awful road.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and you can see the difference because in South Africa, DSTV went and took some of the biggest sort of influencers, people in spaces, and gave them TV shows, and you could see how it translated to television. But
you can't imagine.
You can't
some
see
of
that.
the,
You really can't see that in the comedy space. In the stand-up space, I really give my hats off to people who are still pushing the boundaries. You know, your King Kandoros, your Nijo, I think Long John, Doc Vigela. You know, people who are really still looking at the craft of comedy and saying, this is my audience, this is the type of comedy that I'm doing. I also do skits. That's good. But there are now skits that they just don't make any sense for me.
Oh, we're getting more wine.
Yeah. Do the tights have an extra seam for the, like the tights look like they're in the bum? Like, is it?
Those are called butt scrunch tights.
So they have an extra seam.
They're meant to make your body look.
You see, I was trying to explain because that's not how tights sit. And these guys were telling me, could you know?
No, there are different types of tights now. Okay. So you can have tights that make you look. Yes. I know where they're sold. I'll tell you.
I'll tell you. Yeah, I need the hookup because I'm responsible for all image issues. Remember.
Oh my God.
Toys.
Anyway, so I think for the last part, I'm just gonna ask you.
Sorry, guys. The wine is whining now.
No, the wine is doing its thing.
Okay.
So I became a content creator, not first on Twitter because of the politics. I was just talking about so many things were happening during the Mugabe era,
right.
And then the transition, whatever. So that's just how I became popular on Twitter. So it wasn't I want to make money out of this.
But I loved how you used to space it with some pictures on the beach and stuff because you kept it balanced. No, I'm
wow.
just kidding.
Anyway, and then on TikTok, obviously COVID. I was bored. I was in a foreign country. I was alone. So I was like, okay, everyone is doing this. I might as well. But the business aspect of it was never in my mind. Okay. Instagram for me was, okay, I'm just sharing pictures of my family, friends. I am really struggling because naturally I'm not, I don't think I'm a business person. I'm a creative.
Really? Okay.
I'm a creative. I like creating. Like I was telling you, I write. I have so many stories that I'm trying to. One day, maybe I might publish. But I enjoy creating. I enjoy being in spaces where people are creating. How do I then sell this? How do I make money off this?
No secret. Sorry, I look at the wife first because. Okay, so firstly, there's a comedy editor. When I say comedy editor, he's called Steven Rosenfield. So he's a guy who sits in New York. You pay him to listen to your jokes. And he'll tell you, if you were mugged by 15 people in your joke, he'll tell you, make it 16, because 16 sounds funnier than 50. Like, he's a joke editor. So he knows exactly how to tweak a joke. But one of the things that he taught me, and I swear by this, get good, get seen, get paid, in that order.
Okay.
So a lot of us start something because we get good at it. And then we are very good at the getting seen, but never really do the getting paid. And the getting paid, sometimes we're afraid of it because basically what it means is that the getting seen or the people who love us doesn't match the revenue. But we get afraid. That's an imposter syndrome because it doesn't necessarily follow that you have 1 million followers, that each person, like I once saw a particular comedian sell his profile. It had 250,000 likes, and he wanted to sell it for $4,000 US.
Okay.
And so my logic was, you have 250,000 people. If they gave you $1 each, that's 250, or 50 cents, right? 125,000 US, right? So you're selling yourself short. That's because he knew that he couldn't convert, and conversion is a period of growth. So there's a reason why God wants you to start at the bottom, which is to know how to deal with 4 or 5 customers. Like mostly, I always ask myself, I'll say, let's say, which of your profiles has the most traffic? Like how many followers or how many likes, as an example?
TikTok,
right? So let's say if all the people at TikTok decided to buy something from you today, could you cope?
I have 150,000 followers, 157,000 followers.
Would you deliver? If all of them said, I am ordering the keychain today, deliver. Would you be able to deliver?
What am I selling? No.
Yeah. So the biggest challenge that's there is sometimes we don't set ourselves up. And what God is trying to do is trying to make you set up for small numbers and grow the systems that allow you to do the bigger numbers. Because if everybody came and said they want the 150 stuff, just because like there's a lot of young comics who will say, Carl, I want to perform at your show because I want to grow my name. And I'm like, okay, so here's the problem with coming to my show. I'll put you on stage. If you suck, you will die and you will never perform ever again. Because my constituent are the kind of people who will say, we believed in Carl, that you would be good. And if you're not good enough, then we now question Carl. Yeah. So there's 2 sides of it. I don't think you're going to deliver, and I don't think you're going to meet the expectations of my audience. So there's a reason of growing small, growing to your numbers. And that's the biggest challenge. People feel like, oh, I've got 2 million followers. I should be able to make $50,000. So they're going to $50,000 type businesses. They're like, no, there are sort of 7 ways of making $1 million. So you can make $1 million by selling a $1 product to 1 million people. $10 product to 100,000, $100 product to 10,000, $1,000 product to 1,000 people, $10,000 product to and so on until you get to 1 million for one customer. So what you have to do is there are products that you can sell for $1 that you can easily, they're called low-hanging fruit, but they're very hard because they're capital intensive and you have to be like at it. So you have to decide, am I selling a sticker or a keychain? Start by learning how to sell those small things. Start by learning how to sell a subscription, a $1 subscription. For the 250,000 people that you have, see how many you can sell as a subscription. And those learn how to give value so that you can grow the subscription. And that takes a long period of time. Then you have to have a $10 product. A $10 product could be a book. Okay. So you write a book once a year or once every 10 years, a book that you're going to sell at $10, $20, $30. So that's a 2-digit product. Then you have to have a product that you sell at like a 3-digit, like $100. So the $100 product could be like a consultation, an hourly charge, an hourly rate that you have. So like mine is like 150 an hour. So if you're sitting with me to discuss business, I charge 150 an hour. So then you have to have the 1,000 product.
You're making more than lawyers.
Right. So, but because it comes with a lot of add-ons like this design stuff. So what I do is I help people with their dreams. So if they have a dream to do something, I tell them a starting point. So that consultation helps them to do that. Then I've got the 1,000 product, which is where my appearance fees come. So as a stand-up comedian, I've kept it standard. I earn 1,500 per appearance. I have it, even if I was popular, I wouldn't even push the amount of money. So the 10,000 I was telling you was actually that we're being paid to be part of like an appearance in a production. Okay. And they just came and gave us that offer. But I charged 1,500 to do a performance. Then on the 10,000 part, it's usually a collaborative product. So you can say we're doing a marketing campaign, we're working with a corporate, and they're paying us a retainer. That will be 10,000. The 100,000 is what you call a passion product. So passion product is to say, you know what? I want to build like a lodge. So you make a proposal, you try to get financing, you try to get shareholders. So that's where you do a project where shareholders are involved, where you try to say, I've got a product. The shareholding that I'm giving you is like 50% for 100,000 or 40% for 100,000 US. Then the million product is going to be the product of, you know what? I need to do a product where I can sell one thing, a house, something for $1 million. I want to, you're doing that because you want to know what $1 million looks like. Because I often say to people, conversation near $1 million. I see one afternoon. I see a boardroom. It's not an invoice type deal. It's something that requires playing golf, knowing each other, family, all of those things. So once you know these 7 items, then you know on 7 days which products you're selling. So on Mondays, you sell the $1 product. On Tuesdays, you sell the $10 product. On Wednesday, you sell the $100 product. So you now know your content works like that. So that on Sundays, you're selling the product really $1 million, because people don't really pay attention on social media. But you do it because social media will keep bringing it back every year. So sometimes shareholders want to see your consistency. They want to see what you. So that's how to kind of approach monetization, is to start small, build. Don't look at your following and say that's going to convert. No, try to use the following to leverage so that you can convert the $1, the $10, the $100, the $150, that kind of thing, until you get to
wow.
I don't know if I hope that makes sense.
No, it does.
Yeah.
I've never heard it like that before.
Right.
It's the first time.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely going to use that.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Thank you so much, Carl. I just have last 3 questions for you.
Yes.
Number 1.
Only 3. And look, I still have wine.
No, don't worry. We can.
I think I have 7 questions worth of wine left here.
We can still
7
do
questions
afterwards.
and some questionable thoughts.
After.
Okay, after. Good.
Number 1. Who's your favorite comedian right now?
Right now,
In Zimbabwe.
Oh, in Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm feeling Nijo. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've watched his one-man show a few times.
Okay.
And he's just surprised me on every turn. I just love... I don't know. I love the honesty of what he's doing. But I'm also loving the fact that I hadn't rated him like that, right? Because I didn't understand why Comic Pasta had such an affection for him. I hadn't watched him. So him in stand-up comedy, really surprised me, really blew me away. I'm loving him a lot.
Okay. Second question. Did I just forget? Okay,
yeah.
wait. Yes, I did. I just forgot. The what?
Do I have a... I like this. Yeah.
Wow, my mind. Okay, I'll ask that other. Okay, no, I remember. Ish, guys, wait.
Yeah.
Yay!
Why did you go in this segment?
I heard somewhere where you said you trained your wife to be your manager.
Yeah.
Would you be open to training other people to be managers, and how would that look like in terms of payment or time frame?
No.
Is it something that you would want to do?
Yeah. So okay, I know my wife is shaking her head, but I run an academy, right? So I run an academy via WhatsApp, and a lot of people don't know this. I'm a very strict, I'm a disciplinarian, on that level, right? So my wife, in training her, has I'm the harshest on my wife, and my wife, so bad that my wife gets off a call and I'll literally edit what she said, as in. You should have said this. You missed this opportunity. You should have.
Wow.
So my wife is my favorite product because of what she represents. I often see a lot of people write, "Oh, this is the best manager in the country," and I'm like, no. I'm Martin Nelson. Firstly, you don't understand the level that she's at, or the fact that she can be non-existent in a big process that she's managing and stuff like that. So I do train. I've got a lot of kids, right? So I've got a lot of kids who are at various stages of mentorship. Some are running their own businesses, some are doing their own thing. So I like to help them realize their dreams, and then I utilize them when I need something. So I build their brands, and then I come as one of my companies to, can you do this kind of thing? So they comprise chefs, they are people in the beauty or spa space. They are. I have a lot of people that I mentor. Chefs. I mentioned chefs. Sorry.
The wine.
It's the wine. Designers. AI prompt engineers. I basically enable a lot of young people to be able to do, and I do this for free, right?
Really?
Yeah. So, but
Sign me up.
Yeah. So, but the problem is people don't like the process. They hate the process because the process sometimes, like, I'll have. I remember the comedians who used to say stuff like, "Carl doesn't take us along on his trips," and I'm like, if you don't understand how my wife and I have a relationship with hunger, you will never be able to cope with the decisions we make. Like, people don't know that my wife and I have been sitting in an airport, like as in Harare International Airport. No money coming from Kadoma. We got on the bus, we got to the airport, and we're waiting to go to Singapore. 40 minutes before boarding, the ticket shows up. And remember, I said there's the God list. We are very we walk in a spiritual frequency that people don't even understand. So people don't understand how we get to where we go to. And most of the times, most people who, especially those that don't like me because I told them. Like I told them, like I'm a prophet, right? I told them, you need to do X, Y, Z. And they didn't do X, Y, Z. Then later on, it turns out I took that opportunity of the X, Y, Z because they didn't. And then they're like, but Carl could have told me. It's like,
open a church, Carl.
Yeah. Eh?
We should open a church.
Yeah, I do run a church. Toto run a church. Papa na my Carl Joshua Ncube.
Yeah, and I will lead
Prophetess Healing Deliverance Ministries International. Wine drinking Jesus.
There's nothing wrong with wine. We'll be telling
it's the blood of Christ. Pampas na chingo.
Oh my God.
Otherwise we would have been.
Before we close, I think
the Pope would have been happy with this show. Did I just say that? He would have loved this show.
it's so
Because he would have said, they believe. Chete Pampas na chingo. You would have edited. Center said, Pope here. Chingo chiripi.
Okay, guys, we need to end this. We come to the end of the show. The last question is, Carl, can you please teach me how to cook? And
okay. All right. Yeah.
So can you come and teach me how to cook?
Yes. Saka, what you're going to do, Chandra mystery basket. This is a challenge.
Oh, okay.
So this episode will be before the other episode. This episode
it's coming soon.
Then the next the episode each is us going through
a mystery basket.
Mystery basket.
And
that
wines,
mystery, exactly.
And wine.
Yeah, we're going to do mystery basket.
It's nice.
And by end of year, I'm emceeing the wedding.
Prophet has spoken.
He has spoken.
Guys, this year.
I want to end of. You don't put that in the episode. This year. All right, this year. I'm emceeing, guys. Muganona and this MC. This marriage is doomed.
Wait. This year,
guys.
Mark my words.
Guys. Yeah. Jini Wingman, Panapa, and didn't go assess some candidates.
Mark my words. Mark my words.
I no longer have any brothers who are eligible. However, we can find.
This year.
Vese
vanonituka paTwitter mchiti chirohoro wachembera.
Aiwa. Anautombo chembera. Ati, do you know what? She sold herself out by mentioning Resdon. Anyone who uses Resdon by an essential I think what you should do. No, what I'm saying is that Resdon Bayaga, I don't mention no kind of maturity, udama contract, notara Resdon Baya.
Like my father.
Notara kuti iasa. And you don't mention those things. But because squad Ramazanoka, I know such people. Do you know there was a woman Gusomiku Harare agricultural show, and I think what was I doing? Was it a cooking demo? No, it was a bon marché. I was doing a cooking demo, right? And then so she says, "Oh my God, I'm such a big fan of yours. I've been a big fan ever since you started Chichichi." And then I cracked a joke. Then she says, "Oh my gosh, you're so funny. You should also do comedy." I think Murumana I'm digging me. I'm just you. No.
Thank you so much, Carl. We're definitely gonna have. I'm gonna definitely have a mystery basket for you. We're
Yes.
gonna be cooking.
Yes.
Next episode. Thank
Because
you
we realize
so
we
much.
live so close to you.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not going to give away the address, but it's number 16. No. Okay.
Thank you so much for taking your time and coming. This was amazing.
Thank you for having me.
So much laughter.
I'm so chuffed. I was like, Sha, I can't be left out, guys.
I am honored to have the best comedian to ever come out of Zimbabwe. I said it.
Thank you. It was said here, guys. Don't believe believe this. Believe this.
It. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, and if you have anything else you want us to talk about, hit me up on my Twitter account @todo_Sims or on our Instagram page, Uncook and Wine, Facebook, Uncook and Wine, TikTok, Uncook and Wine. Thank you. Bye.